Answering the question, where are you from, is never an easy one. I kicked math's ass instead of math kicking my ass. I always
Hmm.
flip it around and say, I'm just determined. I've also been described as politely persistent.
Welcome back to Portraits of Strength. I'm your host, Harry, the anecdotist, and in today's episode, we are exploring what it means to stay rooted in who you are, even as life takes you across countries, cultures, and careers. Today on Portraits of Strength, I'm joined by Dr. Madhavi Manchi Nukala, or Maddy, a sociologist, researcher, and a fierce advocate for social justice. Born into a Telugu-speaking family that's moved across India over generations, Maddy now calls Auckland, New Zealand home. With a PhD in Media and Cultural Studies from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, she's explored the intersections of media, gender, caste, and emotion, and continues to champion ethical and equitable research as the Human Ethics Manager at the University of Auckland. Beyond her academic brilliance, Maddie is a movie buff, fantasy fiction lover, and an Appalachian-style clog dancer, proof that curiosity and creativity can coexist beautifully. I'm immensely happy to welcome Maddie to Portraits of Strength. Welcome, Maddie.
Thank you, Harry. It's great to be here.
So let's
Hmm.
start off with, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, what kind of a
Hmm.
kid were you, and what is it that were your interests and things like that?
Hmm. So, um, if I think back to how people have described me, I think I was a kid that has always had her head buried in a book.
Okay.
Always. And I think I get my bookwormish nature from my mum.
Okay.
Um, and I think my earliest memories as a kid is just loving dancing. Always,
Mm,
always.
mm,
So dance and books, I guess, I think. I used to be, for someone who used to love dancing, I've been, I think, extremely shy and underconfident in terms of doing anything on stage or public speaking. It took me a long time to build confidence, and I think
mm,
I sort of started to do that when I hit, I guess, 12, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old. So
mm-hmm,
I think there's been like, you know how in India we do fancy dress competitions and things
mm-hmm.
like that. And I would be terrified going on stage. And I think there have been times I've forgotten the lines I've had to say that go with my costume. And yeah, incredibly shy about singing or doing anything up on stage when I was younger. Um, a bit of I don't know if anyone I suppose this is a funny way to describe myself, but this is an influence in my family. I'm I guess I'm one of those typical Aquarian kids, if that makes sense to anybody in terms of a description.
Okay.
Um, um, always sort of, I guess, asking funny questions, always wanting to try stuff that looked a bit different. Like I was the kid in the ice cream shop that, and this has happened. Like we'd gone into an ice cream shop, and I would be fascinated by the weirdest color looking, the ice cream with the weirdest color. It was
So
everyone
you
would be
didn't
going.
shy away from trying new stuff just because it looked different.
Yes, I think I've Tried that
Uh-huh.
particularly socially with stuff in life. There have been places where you need to give me a nudge to get out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
That's the odd contradiction, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
I suppose like acquiring kids are contradiction have those contradictions, or we all hold those contradictions within ourselves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, if I were to describe myself in that sense, quite sociable, quite friendly, would mingle with people, terrified of being on stage for a while, but always pretty much had her head buried in a book and would
Okay.
secretly love dancing to. I think the earliest memories I have of dancing to songs was Madhuri Dixit's Ek Do Teen.
Ek do thi. Our generation's iconic number, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, generation sort of defining. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely a product of that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and to add to that, I guess I have a sister who's a couple of years younger than I am. Um, we've had a very, I suppose, in some ways, like a really typical trajectory, like siblings do.
Mm-hmm.
Got on well, okay. She'd find it extremely annoying that I wouldn't play with her because I was reading a book all the time. And really fought like cats and dogs for a bit. And then I think as we got into our teenage years, grew really, really close. And she's like one of
Mm.
my rocks, like emotional support wise and just life wise, like she's my rock.
Mm.
Yeah, I've had parents who obviously with our, moving cities and things like that, always eager for us to go try new stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, get as much as possible in terms of experiences, learning skills, that sort of thing. So very privileged to have that kind of upbringing
Mm-hmm.
and having parents who would let us, go off and explore those things.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess my love of stories and things like that comes from my grandparents.
Mm.
My nanama, who my dad's mom, who would always like read me stories before I went to bed, and like my amma and tatagaru, like my mom's parents. Um, Also absolutely rooted with books. I think some of my earliest books I've read have been in my grandfather's collection. Used to go to
Mm-hmm.
Chennai because they lived in Chennai.
Mm-hmm.
And they were both also writers. So
Oh.
just, I guess, a heavy sort of influence there with storytelling.
Mm.
So always loved stories and where they took me into
Mm.
my inner world sort of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, if that's a way to describe my childhood.
So you moved around a lot, right? Like you grew up in Chennai, you grew up in Bangalore, or and like so how did that affect your perspective or how you look at things?
Mm. Um, so I guess uh, answering the question, where are you from, is never an easy one.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the case with any kid. And I think there's just generation of kids like me
Mm-hmm.
whose parents have had transferable jobs and they've moved
Yeah.
cities. And I think um, that's always like I used to find it quite challenging to kind of answer
Mm-hmm.
that question. And I think it speaks a little bit to um, my own, I guess, how I saw myself a little bit for a while.
Okay.
And you also grow up in a time in India where um, you can't really make sense of this as a kid or a young person, but you don't quite know how to react to it, but you do hear it. I've heard people kind of say, "Oh, what is this person who doesn't speak our language doing in our state?" Like you
Hmm.
find, I
Yeah.
guess, you hear different ways of people saying, but you're
You
something of
don't belong.
another.
You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
belong. Yeah.
yeah. But I think also the magical part of things is when I sit back now and I look at stuff. even something as simple as all of the different kinds of food my mom's made for us over the years. I just recognize like the threads of all of this going back
Mm,
to all of the different places, not just in terms of where we've been, but also
mm-hmm.
where my parents have been. So
Yeah.
my parents are Telugu speaking, but they both mostly grew up in Chennai. So
Mm,
there's quite obviously Chennai in that has that cosmopolitan influence. Quite a
mm-hmm.
big metropolitan city would have its kind of impact on my parents as young people there.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandparents lived in Kolkata
Mm.
for quite a big part of their lives, and
Oh,
there's
wow.
obviously that sort of influence. My mum spent a lot of childhood summers going up to Calcutta and living there with
Mm.
her
Your
Nanama and
grandparent.
Tatgaru. So um, it's kind of magical to, I guess, connect those dots and see that there's so much
Mm.
of all of that in the food that
Right.
I eat, in the way that I pick up languages, in and while it's kind of never easy to say where I'm from, it's also gives you a weird shape shifting ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is quite an achievement. I guess when you are younger, it although it makes you feel like you don't belong anywhere per se,
Yeah.
once you have grow up a little bit, then you kind of like start to see all that as a superpower because nobody else has it except you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
South Indian families, especially, our generation, or like I should say our parents' generation, were very keen on, either their kids being doctors or engineers, because again, coming from that, the time where it was the economic times, being a
Yeah.
doctor or an engineer was the safest bet to have
Yeah.
a good career and have a financial stability.
Yeah.
But considering that as the main thing where, most of us were pushed into either engineering or the medicine route, you managed to go into a complete different career pathway, which is a
Yeah.
PhD, in social sciences.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, well,
Yeah.
did you have to fight with your parents to be able to do that? Or were they, or even like, how did that interest towards social sciences kind of come about?
Mm. Yep. So, if you ask my mom this question, she will tell you that I drove her crazy.
Okay.
Oh, I love my mom, but I know that I made it difficult for her with some of these things, which will probably give you a bit of an answer with this. But yes, absolutely sort of fit that mold of particularly like Telugu speaking families as well, where engineering is a very big thing.
Very, yeah.
Um,
I would know
and
that, right? Like I'm one of that.
yeah,
Pushed into being an
yeah.
engineer.
Yep. And this is having my dad who's had a 30-year career, retired from Wipro where he worked for 30 years, is an engineer
Mm,
himself.
mm,
Um, or uh, we have a lot of my family has gone down that route of being engineers. So that and
mm-hmm,
I think a classic thing for, I suppose, like uh, kids of my generation and probably a few years, a couple of generations before, a couple of generations after. If you're talking Gen X, Gen Y, maybe up
mm-hmm,
to just, I don't know what the one after millennials is. I lose track, but a lot of a lot of them, a lot of us, I think, have done that, right? Where you do an engineering degree and you go off and do that. And in my family, there are a lot of those engineers, and they've done that combination, which is a very classic combination of engineering plus an MBA.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I
Yeah.
think I can't say exactly where my interest in social sciences came from, I suppose, but I just knew that I didn't fit the bill for engineering or medicine. Maybe
Okay.
medicine somewhat initially because
Mm-hmm.
my mom used to teach me biology. Like she used to get me to learn my biology, help me do my homework and my exams, and she taught me like especially in later class like years, stuff around genetics and stuff that you learn like all of that, and that used to be really interesting. But
Mm-hmm. Okay.
um, I never ever really liked math. I never really was fascinated. I hated math as a kid. I was terrible at
Okay.
it for the longest time. And I think it never really piqued my interest. Not as much as
Hmm.
say English literature did. There was, and you get very limited scopes of this in school as well, right? With your subjects,
Yeah.
at least when we were
Yeah.
in school. So you'd have maybe
Yeah.
you'll have your science, your math, and you'll have history a little bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
English, and you'd probably do like a second and a third language for some time, right?
Hmm.
Always loved English literature because bookworm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely my comfort zone and loved it. But nothing there in terms of, yes, there was history. Used to love history, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not exactly a fit. So I guess it took a while for me to figure out where I did want to go, but
Hmm.
absolutely knew that I didn't want anything to do with computer sciences, did not want anything to do with
Well, that's clarity in knowing what you don't want to do as well, right?
yeah. Yep, and I guess my mom was sort of keen of on okay, why didn't you just by the time you'd done I'd done my 10th exam, which is your main board exam as we call it. Um, it was decision sort of time, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like, I was like, maybe I want to do arts. I
Hmm.
didn't know what in arts. It's just that the
Right.
subjects that combinations that we had for, we call it pre-university college or PUC in
Hmm.
Karnataka, right? Which is inter basically in your
Yeah.
in
Plus one,
Andhra
plus
Pradesh,
two. Yeah.
plus one, plus two. And those subjects looked interesting. And then my mom was like, look, if you take that, you won't be able to go back to do something like accounting or business or MBA or something like that if you want to do it.
Yeah.
So just pick up like business studies and commerce kind of subjects.
Hmm.
Um, 2 years of just kind of plodding through it, terrified of math. And for someone who absolutely detested math
You
in
have to do
year
accounting, right? Accounting
yes,
is math.
yes, and think of the subjects. I had four subjects, one of which was business studies, which is still okay because it's a very theory heavy subject and
Right.
had nothing to do with numbers. The other three are accounting, statistics, and math. And it's
Oh man,
math.
math again. See, math, math did not leave you.
No, and I think that was I would share this at this point. It feels like it may be going off a little bit on the tangent of what you'd asked me as a question, but I think year 11 and 12 is the year I kicked math's ass instead of math kicking my ass because I,
Awesome. That's so impressive for a person who doesn't like math.
I turned it around and I said, I can't be scared and hate math anymore. So I went
That's
on to
good.
do like 90, 92, 93% in all of those three math heavy
Wow.
subjects. So I was like, I'm done with math now. I just don't want to do anything with that. And then it was my dad, I think, who kind of said, who kind of picked up this field that, I was wanting to do something else and I wasn't
Hmm.
wanting to kind of stay with things like commerce or anything like that. And he kind of really said, okay, what is it that you want to do? And
Hmm.
I went and did my bachelor's with three majors. So it's psychology, sociology, and English literature. So it was a really good combination.
Hmm.
At least psychology made me feel like, it's psychology at least gives you like a career pathway. Um,
Hmm.
and at the end of it, I think it's all thanks to my professors, really.
Hmm.
I just ended up really liking sociology.
Hmm.
Um, had because my mom was very like she was really keen that I sort of at least give it a shot. I actually gave one of those entrance exams for an MBA.
The cat?
No, the other one. What's it called? The rat. I think there's a cat and a rat or whatever. Like cats are for your
The cat
IIMs
is for
and
the
like your
IIMs and all.
yeah,
Yeah.
for your for your really top level MBA schools, right? Your RATs, I think, are more regional kind of
Oh, okay.
MBA schools. Studied for it, gave it, absolutely hated it. I think I even did entrance exams for like XLRI, Great
Hmm.
Lakes, like I did the whole shebang, and
Okay.
then kind of said no. Um, and at that point, it was okay, I want to do a master's. What do I do a
Hmm.
master's in? Actually got admission and got a seat to kind of do an MSc in psychology,
Hmm.
clinical psychology, and
Okay.
then decided no, even that is not the thing because I just did not like clinical psych and what it was offering. I guess it was,
Hmm.
I guess by then I couldn't really articulate it extremely well, but I think I was looking for more than the individual. I was looking for things that would let me explore the cultural side of things, the collective
Hmm.
side of things. And I think um, for where I was located and for where I was in life at that point and the places I was looking at, there wasn't an access to cultural psychology, which would have been like real, or social psychology, which would have been a
Hmm.
great kind of,
Right.
um, I guess, discipline at the time that
Hmm.
would have helped. So the only choice was sociology.
Okay.
And then I picked that up, finished that, kind of you go into that age, I guess, between your undergrad and masters where my parents were going. Why don't you kind of look at getting married and you have
Hmm.
someone or we want to start looking. So there's also those pressures that I was kind of looking, kind of managing on the side.
Right.
And I think by the time I finished my master's, I decided that I wanted to teach. I was
Hmm.
very keen on doing that. I actually taught for a year in the college or the university I finished my master's from. And then I decided, okay, if I want to teach, I need to get a PhD.
Hmm.
And I also realized that I want to start getting a bit more experience in life living on my own and what it
Hmm.
means to kind of be a little bit more independent because I've done all my studies from plus one, plus two, up until masters, plus the one
At
year of
home.
work, all at home in the same college. I
Oh,
hadn't
okay.
even switched colleges, which is a running joke in my family because they're like, "Oh, if you ever move back to India, please do not go back there."
Okay.
Although I absolutely appreciate like everything I learned over there. I did a lot. I learned a lot, and I think my foundations on social sciences were kind of really built from, interestingly, by my English professors and my sociology professors equally. So they built the foundations of everything I know in my disciplines there. So um and then my parents kind of didn't know how to react when I said I want to go do a PhD and that I want to
Okay.
do it and that I want to do it outside of Bangalore.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Um,
I can relate to that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, 2009, well, I did my entrances to a couple of places. I wrote like like those admission exams and
Exams, yeah,
whatnot.
examination exam. Yeah.
Um, Tried a place or two in Bangalore, didn't work out. And then I guess it was this because they had a place in gender studies and they had a place. I wasn't even looking at media and cultural studies, to be quite honest.
Oh, okay.
The proposal I sent through was on a topic that ended up being nothing to do with like what I got my PhD in. So
Okay.
I was wanting to the thing I sent my proposal on was to look at how gyms were very gendered spaces, and we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about a time when gym culture wasn't really a thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
gyms were
Yeah.
very heavily, especially when you did strength.
Male dominated.
Male dominated, particularly the strength training sections of gyms and areas of gyms are very male
Yep.
dominated. So
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to look through, and I had sort of started to go to the gym a little bit at that point. So it was a very interesting thing. And I said, okay, I'll go see what it is that, I want to do my PhD on this thing. Did a
Mm-hmm.
complete like 180 when I got to this. It was a MPhil plus PhD sort of integrated program. Learned so
Mm-hmm.
much,
Mm.
life-wise, discipline-wise, and then took me 6 years to finish it. So
No, yeah, I mean, PhD can be quite a daunting journey, right? Because you're basically, I've seen it with Vasudha as well, where
yeah,
I've like, because it's a individual pursuit. The research can be very lonely.
yeah,
Doing all by yourself can be very lonely,
yeah,
and sometimes you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it can affect your mental health, it can affect your emotional, physical health.
yeah,
Um, so what made you because I believe that whoever has done a PhD, no matter what the subject is, that shows me that that person is quite resilient and they are like literally persevering through to, to finish it through. So what is it
yeah.
that gave you the strength
Mm,
to have that grit, to have that resilience, especially considering that was the very first time you were living away from family, all by yourself in
yeah,
Mumbai?
yeah,
Um, so what got you through that?
yeah. Um, I guess I'll start by kind of adding a little bit more to your very first question in terms of describe your childhood and who I was as a child. I guess I still am this. So, one of the ways I've been described is stubborn. I always
Mm-hmm.
flip it around and say I'm just determined. Um, I think that's just has been a little bit a part of my personality a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be your very outwardly kind of what do you say? Um, like I'll stand on both feet and firmly ground myself and I won't budge kind of thing. I can be, I've also been described as politely persistent. So those are, I guess it's
Okay.
always kind of stuck around a little bit. So that's been a little bit a part of my personality, but also absolutely right in terms of it is a lonely journey. It does take a lot to pull yourself through that six
Mm-hmm.
years. And particularly the writing part is extremely lonely.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what you're doing in a PhD, right? You're writing,
Yeah.
you're reading and you're writing, and you are quite. It's quite. You're alone if you're not lonely. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
wavering between those two constantly.
Yeah.
I think in a way, it helped that I was living away from family because you
Mm-hmm.
do need that focus.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helped that I just had great mates. I just made really good friends. I started off as a cohort of MPhil students, and
Mm-hmm.
I became friends with three people, still really good friends, and they really helped me through.
Mm-hmm.
And there were also um, two sort of lecturers in my faculty who were who were just a few years older than I was, I guess. They were teaching like masters and things like that. They weren't really teaching me directly.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided that I was moving into media and cultural studies, that's the school I wanted to attach myself to. Um, I've met these great, really similar age kind of
Mm-hmm.
people teaching, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that, and they're really good friends as well to date. One of the things, and they're a couple, and this couple basically said, don't isolate yourself. Um, even if you don't do anything else, once a day, come have a cup of chai with us.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what, where. Go have a cup of chai either with your friends or come have a cup of chai with us. And I think that is it leaves a door open, right? No matter
Yeah.
what you're going through, you know that if you put that into your routine, you
Mm-hmm.
know you're going and you're meeting people, and you're meeting
Right.
people who are in this with you or have been through it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know then that you're not alone, although it feels a little bit
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So just, I think absolutely wouldn't have made it through without my friends and without that bit of advice. I think just someone saying, hey, come have a cup of chai every day with us
Mm.
is all the difference, right? And I think um, while my parents kind of couldn't really understand what an academic life is, and you are
Yeah.
at the start of an academic life when you get into a PhD, they couldn't understand, for example, why it took me a year to put a proposal together.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, in our context, proposals get put together in a week. I'm like, no, that's not how it's done here. Although it took a while for them to sort of understand where all of this was coming from, they absolutely were supportive,
Mm.
finally came around to it. And then sort of at the end, look, at the end of the day, they had their worries in terms of, oh, you've hit a certain age, you need to get
Right.
married, it's going to be tough while you're living away from home, getting all this done. There's a lot of different questions. When you do
Yeah.
an arranged marriage kind of journey, people don't really understand, or people don't always appreciate that there's, this woman that they're looking at who has a degree more than their son.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a bit difficult. That still is a thing in India,
Oh yeah,
unfortunately. So
definitely.
yeah, and but they came around to it. Although there was all of this that we were all dealing with as a family, my parents also were extremely proud. So I think I'm the first woman in my family to get a PhD, and I think that's I have two aunts. I have an atta and a pinny who have MPhils,
Mm-hmm.
who are obviously your inspirations in life.
Yeah.
And I think it's just awesome that I've had the chance to take that one step further. So I think that they've always been proud, although they didn't always understand it. So
Mm.
they've obviously always that helps kind of push things through. Um, and I've sort of finished my PhD in, I wouldn't say unique circumstances, but as in it's not singular to me, but but I suppose in unusual circumstances in some ways, because I met Aklesh
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of doing my PhD, and I essentially we met 3 days later. We'd said, yes, we're getting married to each other. And then I had 6 months to finish my data collection
Oh,
because there was a
okay.
wedding.
Yeah.
And then by the following March, I'd moved to New Zealand. So I was still, I didn't really, it was too kind of late in the process to transfer my PhD here to any university or anything like that. And
Mm.
so we did, like, I think the first 2 years of our marriage, I must have stayed away like 5, 6 months, going back and forth between India and things like that to get
So to
stuff done.
complete your PhD.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I think um, if you don't, when you have that change happen in your life, and
Mm.
you need a partner who's okay with you shuttling back and forth, particularly if it's through an arranged marriage thing, because you obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at it and you go with like the general notions of what an arranged marriage involves, you would think that there's certain things involved. But he was okay with that. He knew that I'm someone who probably wouldn't have an income coming in, which some people do. Your partner needs to be okay with that, right? You're not going to really be
Right.
bringing an income in. In fact,
Yeah.
he's needed to support me in some ways in that sense. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think if it wasn't for him kind of going, okay, no, finish this, go do this, it's fine, take your time, because we got married in 2012. I submitted my thesis in 2015, at the end of 15. So that's like 3 years on a
You had to
young
go
marriage.
back
It's a
back and
lot.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't have um, a partner who you just getting to know, you trying to get to know this person in a new country.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think if it wasn't for just that support and understanding, that wouldn't have happened either. So
Hmm.
all thanks to him as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, you've lived and you've worked bo in both India and New Zealand, though I guess your work in India was a little very small
Yeah, a
compared to
year.
what you worked in New Zealand.
Yeah.
How do you feel like how did what how was the transition like, both personally and professionally when you compare those two countries?
Um, I think so I'll say this for the academic tertiary sector, university sector. Um, a lot of things are the same
Mm,
anywhere in the world. Um, those politics are the same because the structures are fairly similar.
mm,
Um, when I say politics, I do mean office politics, and there is a difference in terms of obviously being in completely different countries will bring its own differences.
right.
Um, for instance, it is right. Like I've had just 1 year of working professionally in India, so it's just been
Mm,
that 1 year. I
right.
most of my career's been here,
In New Zealand. Yeah.
and there's been a bit of a gap as well. So I worked for a year between 2008 and 2009 in India. Then went on to do my PhD. Moved here while I was doing my PhD, and I had my first, I guess, part-time job when I'd finished in 2016. So I had a bit of a gap where I was only doing like studies and focusing on that. So
Mm,
um, I guess in some ways, um, my mature career, if you want to call it that, has pretty much been here.
mm,
And I guess, and someone has to come and say I'm wrong because I want someone to come and say I'm wrong because I'm not familiar very much with, or I have very little familiarity with the work culture in India.
mm,
And it feels a little like I I still come with that notion of maybe there is that very you defer to your boss a lot. You're
yeah.
extremely, respectful of them.
Obedience is more.
Yeah, yeah. Which is not the case here. And I think that's been one of the hardest transitions. So um and particularly in the past 3 years, because
Mm,
before this, I was doing a lot of contract based research roles where you're sort of doing your
doing
own
math.
thing. You're part of a project, you will sort of meet up with the rest of your research
Mm,
assistants or your lead investigators and things like that. But
right.
it's a very, very different setup to the job I do now, which is the
Mm,
more business side of university.
okay.
It is a lot more, if you want to call it that, the corporate side of uni. We're not academic staff. We're actually what in New Zealand is referred to as professional staff. It's a bit of a funny term, I guess, if you look at it internationally, but um, we're non-academic staff. We're research support staff in a lot of ways. So my team
Mm,
sits in the research and Innovation Office, that is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research's portfolio. Um,
gotcha.
so we're very administratively
Mm,
led in that sense. So I think that has been a mindset shift.
mm,
That's one sort of transition going from being in this very academic mindset to suddenly people kind of competing with things, and all of if you're from the social sciences, there's also very specific ways in which social scientists come to the academic space as well.
mm.
Like you have a heightened kind of way in which you look at gender, you look at all of the social
Social.
interactions in a very specific
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
I had to really quickly I realized that that lens I can't hold anymore in this
Mm,
space. You can't, and especially when you work in a space like ethics, um, your left, right, and center and politics cannot come into play. Ethics is ethics. It's
Very
sometimes like,
objective, right?
yeah, very facts based, and it's not the same as law, but very similar to law in the sense of
Mm,
there's a compliance component. It
mm,
doesn't matter what your beliefs on a particular cause or something like that is. It doesn't matter where on the political spectrum you fall. Ethics is
mm,
ethics. It's doing the right thing,
right. Hmm.
right? So, your um, so that's one kind of, I suppose, transition.
Hmm.
And the other sort of transition is, I guess it's those two really. If I think back to it, it's like a cultural thing, and it's a mindset thing. So this is, I guess that's the sum of it, and it's also upskilling in that sense. So that's another kind of shift, I suppose.
Hmm.
You do your hours. They're not really flexible. You have business hours that you kind of stick to,
Okay.
things like that. So, um, yeah, I suppose that's kind
Yeah.
of like some of the transitions I've been through professionally. Personally, um, gosh, it feels like a lot of stuff personally.
I mean, it's hard to it's I mean, I know people say that you have to kind of like have a boundary between the two, but it's kind of
Mm,
hard to have a clear cut boundary because your mindset shift or the way you work at work, you pretty much bring your whole self into the work. So it's really how you
yeah,
change your mindset, whether it's all those
yeah,
transitions that you're talking about. I'm sure that has affected your personal growth as well, right? Personal growth,
yeah,
personal upskilling, as you said.
yeah,
Because, yeah, to your point, it took me a lot of time to get out of the obedience mindset that I call. When you work,
yeah.
when you go to school and when you work in India, it's
Mm,
all like whatever the professor says or whatever your boss says, you just kind of like do it without questioning,
yeah,
and that is kind of like rewarded. But once I came here to the US for my master's, it's like you are required to have an opinion of your own. You
yeah,
are required to put your own opinions out. It's not just doing what's being told to you, right? So it's like,
yeah.
and in fact, I for years I thought I was actually doing that well, but
Mm,
after a few years in the corporate world is when I realized that no, I am actually not doing it. I need to completely, it's what we call as unlearn what you've learned and relearn a complete new thing, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely relate to that. And I think I feel that every day, even now, right? So this is my first kind of, I suppose, leadership position. So,
Hmm.
within my team, and I sort of stepped up from being an advisor into my manager role at the moment. And I'm learning that a lot, right?
Hmm.
So, I suppose when you are someone who's had to fight a little bit and really navigate challenges to kind of say, no, I will go do this PhD, no, I will go do it in a different subject, no, I will get married later in life. You actually do come from that idea that I haven't actually been obedient. I have rebelled a little bit and I have stood up for what I want. And then you come here and it's exactly like how you said, you realize that, that was probably scratching the surface. There's so much
I
more
mean,
to do.
exactly. I mean, even those little things, right? Like looking back, you might think they are little, but at that point of time, at that point of your life, those were the
Mm.
big things, and those were the things that you had to fight your way through, right? Like,
Yeah,
because for example, like I wanted to come to the US for my master's, and the in the family it was like, how can you send your daughter to another country without getting her married?
right.
That was the big thing when I wanted to
Mm.
come, and it took me 6 months
Mm.
to fight to get my parents to agree that it was okay to send me for my master's. So yeah, when we
Yeah.
look back and we talk about it, it's like, yeah, as you said, it's probably scratching the surface. But at that point of time, in that point of life that you are in, that's like it took
Yeah.
immense amount of strength,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
And
not easy.
yeah, it's not easy, and I think um I think sometimes we sort of, as we're speaking, I'm sort of reflecting on it, and I think we don't realize how much we're going against the grain of the cultural norm in some ways, because women in our culture don't do that.
They don't. And as you said, we are named or we are called stubborn for that matter, right? Because we don't go with the grain. We are like as that famous saying is there, right? Like nice women don't make
Yeah,
history.
yeah,
Not I wouldn't say what we're making is history per se, but
yeah.
somebody has to be go against the grain, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's I think it sort of has its own little butterfly sort of effects
Hmm.
internally, right?
Yeah.
So my sister is also someone who didn't go down that engineering medicine route.
Yeah.
She has her master's in visual communication and design.
Hmm.
And that's the route she's in. She's now, within that space of UI UX design and things like that. And she was
Hmm.
probably in that space before UI UX was a thing. Like we're
Hmm.
talking like mid 2000s when it was
Right.
still a very new field and you weren't getting,
Fledgling field. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it was, so she's, I guess in that sense, my parents have supported that, but also it's all of those. I think they sort of sit back and think a little bit about how much we went through as a family with the pressures of me kind of getting married by a certain age and things like that. I think they took that back a little, and they did it differently with my sister, which is an awesome
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
She's had a slightly different journey of where she ended up with her husband and her partner and how she met him and things like that. And you can see that, so
Yeah.
I guess the stubbornness has helped. And while you're not making history on a world stage,
It's history in our
you
families, right?
yeah, you're having an impact in within your core space and on your core people, which
Yeah.
I guess for our lifetimes it's a big deal. So I'll
Yeah,
take it.
definitely. Yeah. We should, right? We should take it, and yeah, I totally can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so since you work in the space of ethical, what is it called? Ethical studies, or what's your department
Oh,
called?
it's just research ethics,
Research
human
ethics.
research
So
ethics. Yeah.
what are some of the ethical dilemmas or challenges you see researchers are facing today, especially when it comes to studies that involve people and culture?
Um. Oh, look, I'm gonna say the buzzword because it's on everyone's mind, but AI is the thing that's bothering
Right
even,
now?
no, not bothering. I guess we sort of navigating our way through
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously has impacts in terms of culture and society and the way we are socially and doing research on these things because
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all familiar with that idea of coders kind of building their biases into algorithms and that sort of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Um,
Definitely.
and obviously that has impacts on it. You also have group harms that come with what you do with big data, which
Mm-hmm.
is probably not it's obviously not the same as AI, but it sits alongside AI given
Yep.
given
For sure.
given how data hungry AI is.
Every
Um,
yeah, is yeah.
and
I like the way you said that, data hungry. AI for sure. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot.
Within the New Zealand context, we have New Zealand's own indigenous tribe, like you have Native American
Mm-hmm.
tribes across the US. You have
Mm-hmm.
the Maori people, who are the
Mm-hmm.
indigenous people of New Zealand, and Maori data sovereignty, and just, I guess, bringing that equity and social justice lens is a really important thing within ethics. So any sort of research um, with and on Māori or engaging Māori in any way is always something that is considered here.
Mm-hmm.
And it will always take on um, and I guess that intersection of AI and Māori data sovereignty is one of the main sort of things that people are trying to find or build pathways forward
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the research that they do, and in making sure that that engagement exists within the research that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Where New Zealand is a bicultural nation in the sense of you have um, we call them Pakeha. So they're New Zealand, white New Zealand or New
Mm-hmm.
Zealand Europeans, um, uh, essentially settler families who sort of been here generations, and
Right.
they call Pakeha, and then you have the Māori
Mm-hmm.
sort of tribes and uh, sub-tribes, probably tribes
Mm-hmm.
not the right word. Um, so it is a bicultural sort of nation that has a treaty attached to it. You have formal crown and Maori relations and things like that. So that is
Mm-hmm.
always like one of the fundamental things you would consider within research ethics in New
Mm.
Zealand.
Okay.
Um, and we operate under uh, you know a dual set of guidelines. So you have we have a set of guidelines that's been created by a national ethics advisory group that sits or advises the Ministry of Health,
Mm.
and a lot of research ethics comes from um, very unfortunate research malpractice in the medical space, right? We're talking
Yeah,
about
okay.
experiments during the Nazi regime. We're talking
Mm.
about
Okay.
the
Yeah.
very famous Tuskegee trials in the US around syphilis.
Right.
And New Zealand has its own sort of what's
Owns.
called the unfortunate experiment here, where
Mm-hmm.
there were women with cervical cancer who were experimented on without consent. So
Mm.
it's all of these kind of things that is the reason why research ethics exists. And given
Mm.
that sort of medical research history attached to it, our main guidelines, including international ones like your Declaration of Helsinki, Declaration of Taipei, they all tie in
Mm-hmm.
from that side of things. And then
Right.
you have something called the Te Aratika, which is your Mari research ethics
Mm.
guidelines. So when you do uh, an ethics application, you consider all of that together over
Mm.
here. So that's kind of that's one of the things people are sort of contending with here, keeping in mind that when you compare to a country like India, New Zealand is a fairly young country in
Mm.
terms of history versus, say, the Indian subcontinent. So when I say they're still contending with things like that, I sometimes look at people from India kind of going, there's a different sort of reaction, but I guess it's keeping in mind that, the spans of history we're talking about are different in these
Yeah.
two situations. So, um, and I think the other sort of things that we might be contending with is people building a lot of medical devices.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
for instance, I think there's a lot of places where things like phone apps attached to a device or mental
Mm-hmm.
health app. are now considered medical devices
Mm,
in a bunch of different legal context jurisdictions, things like that. So
right.
that's another thing. And I think those are like the latest challenges. Um, it's always something happening when you do cutting edge stuff with research.
Yeah.
What happens when you want to commercialize research findings? That's an ever sort of evolving space. It
Mm.
always adds a layer of complexity to things. Um, so,
And
yeah.
things don't actually come up till like more number of people start using it, and like things like, for example, right, like when AI initially came in a few years ago, it was like, oh, this is such a cool thing. This is such a, it's so like technologically it's cutting edge. But
Mm,
until the huge volume of people started using it in various different ways, the
mm,
issues with ethics or issues with privacy or legal issues did not
yeah,
even come up. It's only after that happens that,
yeah.
guidelines start coming into place, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think actually that kind of reminds me a little bit of, I suppose the things that we contend in terms of uh, areas of disciplines bleeding into each other, right? So
Hmm.
um, one, a lot of people talk about the ethics of AI, um,
Hmm.
but there's I guess different types of ethics in that sense as well, right? You have an ethical code of conduct, which is your profession
Right.
related. So,
Right.
as a doctor, what is the ethical code of conduct you have, or as
Right.
a
Lawyer.
teacher and things like that. So, you have professional codes of conduct, which is one sort of ethics. And
Hmm.
then everyone now talks about the ethics of AI, which
Hmm.
encompasses a range of things. And then you have research ethics, which is a very specific little pocket of things that you would look at.
Right.
Um, so one of the things I guess we sort of often, and I suppose ethics in particularly research ethics, but ethics in a lot of ways is that canary in the coal mine. So we're sort of spotting a lot of stuff before anyone else has spotted it,
Ah, gotcha.
which is where we then have to kind of go. Um, Things to do with the privacy law in any place isn't us because we don't comment on the law or we don't make
Hmm.
legal comments. We cannot because we're not lawyers, we're ethicists.
Right.
We cannot speak to how um, data security will matter to anything
Hmm.
because we're not cybersecurity. Ethics is not the same as data security, it's a different thing,
Correct. It's completely different. Yeah.
completely different. We might be absolutely fine with a researcher, you know, using a bit of data he's collected from a group of people and publishing it and using it and say ABC different ways,
Mm-hmm.
um, as long as they've assured the people they're taking it from, who'll be your research participants, that this is what they're doing. They've been transparent and they've got consent to do it in that way.
Hmm.
Whereas if I talk to someone who comes from a cybersecurity perspective, they might have a problem. But as an
Right.
ethicist, we will not have a problem because the
Hmm.
people
Makes
have
sense.
agreed to it. The people whose
Yeah.
data it is have agreed to the use of it in that way. Um,
Hmm.
so I suppose in that sense, it's a very it always puts you in those interesting gray areas and interesting sort of
Hmm.
conundrums. And
Okay.
when you sit as part of a team that does ethics for the entire university,
Hmm.
um, it's it's interesting when you have to sort of negotiate these spaces with your colleagues who do the other side of things, and there's institution or organization wide policy and things like that that you have to sort of keep in mind. So
Hmm. Okay.
I suppose those things make it very challenging and very interesting to be that canary in the coal mine.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting for sure. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
So being an Indian woman in New Zealand with a PhD from an Indian institute,
mm,
how do you navigate the intersections of, gender, race, and cultural identity at your workplace or even your,
mm,
social life in New Zealand?
mm. Um, that's been interesting, and I think it's good that I suppose I flagged that New Zealand is at its heart a bicultural nation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say bicultural, it's different from monocultural, if that's the word, and different from multicultural, um,
Like the US, for
like
example.
the
Yeah.
US or India, right? A- and I suppose it's interesting when you are of an ethnicity that isn't one of the two main cultures that
Mm-hmm.
make up
In
the
New Zealand. Yeah.
bicultural nation.
Mm.
Um, that's one thing. I think there are spaces in which I think there's flows of or waves of you being moving into invisibility, coming back into visibility because of your race in different contexts. So in some places you won't even strike people in the room as needing engagement of some sort, and I'm speaking at a very high level, broad level, um, because you're not one of those two races or ethnicities. You're
Okay.
invisible in that sense
Mm-hmm.
um, because you're simply just not part of the bicultural.
Mm.
You're not part of the bicultural. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in other ways, like most, I guess, people of color, you will see I have had experiences of racism, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I have had, your typical sort of, I guess, um, racial slurs, if you like, against Indians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Comments on curry, I suppose, someone like young kids driving by and calling you blackie. It's all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. You've had some of those experiences. I think the fortunate thing, and I think a blessing here is, despite all of it, in, you know, despite all of this, I think New Zealand is actually up there when it comes to racial equity compared to a lot of places in the world.
Mm.
A lot of
Okay.
places in the world.
Okay.
Um, I have, and I when I say this in terms of where race intersects with colonization, because race in a lot of
Yeah.
ways is a product of colonization in some ways, or
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
sedimented in that way. Um, it's I don't know any other nation that does repatriations,
Oh.
right?
Oh, New Zealand does
So
that.
it does. So
Oh.
you have, and that comes within the Treaty of Waitangi. There's a tribunal that sits. There is a reason why that Treaty of Waitangi exists. It's because you need to have that partnership with, the word is iwi, iwi
Mm-hmm.
as in like the sub tribes within Mari. So and Mari are not homogeneous. When they talk about their iwi, they come from different regions of New Zealand, and each iwi is different in its own way. And
Okay.
there's strong ties that they have to that identity, right?
Hmm.
Um, so it's you need to have that consideration and everything, um,
Hmm.
which I have not seen anywhere else in the world,
That's
right?
nice. Yeah.
Um, I think. While I've experienced some of that sort of racism, I've
Mm-hmm.
also had people be equally apologetic on behalf of someone else because they said something not great.
Okay.
Um, like, I don't know how many people will look this. There'll be some people who'll call it white guilt or whatever, but keeping that aside, it takes a lot for someone to come up and say, "Hey, I'm really sorry my fellow countrymen did that to you. Like
Mm.
it's yeah, I've had that happen. I've had that
Oh wow.
happen as well. Like there was no need for that person to come and say anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
other than probably leave it at, hey, are you all right? Do you need any help?
Hmm.
To kind of go one step further and say, I'm
Further,
really
yeah.
sorry that person behaved like this towards you is, um, it might happen other places, but I'll take it as, something that I've experienced here. So
That's nice.
says
Yeah.
that says something, and
Something.
it says quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of gender, I think that's I feel like the we probably need a whole other episode to unpack it. But I'll probably share something with you that will hopefully give anyone who's listening a sense of the, I guess, the difference that I'm talking about. So I've
Mm-hmm.
gone from Bangalore um, to Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
right, where Bangalore is relatively safe. And I
Mm-hmm.
was in India at the time of the Nirbhaya case being a big thing. Like it happened when
Yeah.
I was there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's that's something that's a case, and that's an incident of sexual assault that impacted a lot of women in my age
Yeah.
when we were in the country, right? So we've
Yeah.
gone from understanding that Delhi is this completely unsafe place for women to me living in Bangalore, which is relatively a bit
Safer
more
place.
safer, to Mumbai, which was extremely liberating in the sense of I have not been scared to take a taxi by myself at 2 a.m. And this
Hmm.
is pre-Uber days in India, right?
Right.
And pre having like your safety features and stuff on Uber. To coming here in New Zealand, where it has its pockets of danger. It's not, no place is danger free, right?
Yeah.
But where in broad daylight, I would hesitate to go to some parks and just sit down as a lone woman on a bench. I wouldn't here.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like I've always been in public transport, except for maybe Mumbai for the most part. You always make your body small, you shrink down, and
Yeah.
you're on your guard all the time, right?
Every woman
We're wearing,
understands this. Yeah.
yeah,
Every woman understands that. Yeah.
exactly, we're wearing backpacks the wrong way around to protect ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
and that's knowing that it's no guarantee that there will be some guy who will try his hand at something. Anyway,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
to really not having a fear of it at all here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or the if you want me to not put it in absolute terms, it's like I have to now work to turn up the danger and alertness in my head, if that helps.
That is a lot of freedom and freeing of that
Yeah,
mental energy that we usually tend to
yeah,
use when we go to India. Like I see that a lot, especially because Purvi, she's born here, right? So it's like
mm,
they are born with that sense of freedom that they can actually do everything and anything.
yeah,
And every time I take her to India and I tell her you have to be safe, you have to do all of this, and that doesn't get, or she cannot wrap that around her head because
yeah,
she hasn't seen that. She
yeah,
hasn't experienced it,
yeah,
which I love for her, but it
yeah.
also kind of like gives me that additional worry because when I go to India, I can't let her go by herself, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And it's never the big things in India, right? It's always a
This,
culmination of really small bad things.
mm-hmm.
It's two different guys at two different places making a lewd comment that has
Yeah,
essentially ruined your week,
yeah,
and put that fear in you, right? So
mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's it, we sort that I think has been extremely sort of liberating. It's
mm.
not to say again that New Zealand is completely like
Safe.
whatever. Like this is a country that I think was one of the first to give its women the right to vote.
Hmm.
It's one of the first in the world to do that. And it's had some of the earliest sort of suffragettes. There was a Maori woman, and there's I think one of the settlers, sort of Pakeha women, who um, advocated for that right. And they got that
Nice.
right sort of given to women. So this is a country that comes with
Mm-hmm.
those
Nice.
histories
Hmm.
in that sense. It's not to say that I haven't met the odd um, man who comes from a specific cross section of uh, demographies, if you will, or identities, if you will, who is a product of his times. Like
Mm-hmm.
they will come and say, oh, they will make those jokes about, oh, are you going to go take your husband's credit card and spend all his money, sort of thing. Like, hey,
Ye-
like, hey, you know, I earn my own money, man. I can go shopping on my own. Don't need the husband's money. He's welcome to take my money if he likes.
Yeah.
You know, or it's
Yeah.
not to say that this place is, like a lot of places in the world. I guess there is. You will still see somewhat a different division of labor in the house, or things like that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I will say in terms of gender, because we are talking broadly of gender, this is one of the countries in the world that I know of that is very LGBTQI plus safe. It's legal to
Nice.
marry here. A lot of people, I
Mm.
think, come here to marry,
Mm.
and it's very forward in that sense.
Very forward in it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good
Um,
to know. That's great for
yeah.
you. I'm happy for you in that sense. That
Yeah.
does that mean you don't have any guy coming and mansplaining to you ever?
Oh, no, I don't think those. Oh, look, I think the world has a long way to go before men stop
That
mansplaining.
stops.
I don't think any
Okay.
place is immune to that. You'll have your mix of people who you'll have your mix of men who some people are better at doing it less than others, or
Right.
respecting you and not being patronizing to you compared to other men. There's always a mix of those. So
Mhm.
I
Okay.
think we have a long
Fair
way to
enough.
go before that happens.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
um it's you'll still have people who want to take credit for your ideas, and that somehow
Hmm.
thinks it's easier because you're a woman and they're a man.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. But looks like in ma majority of things, New Zealand is a much more progressive place, and you have more. Um, it's not that much of an issue when it comes to either gender or race. Things like
Yeah,
that is what I'm
yeah,
understanding. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think I will say I think it's I think one just has to look to how New Zealand sort of New Zealand's response to the terror attacks on our mosques in Christchurch on the 15th of March
Mm-hmm.
2000. I can't remember the year now. I think it's been about 5, 6 years now. But
Mm-hmm.
um, it's you can dissect this 100 different ways, but it is a country that chose to have its set a narrative that's different from what you would see
Mm.
when it comes to terrorism.
So,
Um,
yeah.
and I suppose calling this for what it is, it was a terrorist, and
Yeah.
uh, it was a gunman who terrorized people, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was. And I think that
Okay.
reaction is quite it says a lot, I think, for what this
Mm.
country stands for and how it
Mm.
looked at that and managed its communities and stood
Okay.
behind the community that was impacted.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
Mm. Nice.
Mm.
So, this podcast celebrates strength in all its forms. And strength, in my opinion, is a huge range, right? So, what does strength mean to you?
Ooh, ah, I need to pause and think a little bit on that.
Sure.
Um, I think for the oh look, strength to me is I would love to do like a high weights deadlift someday.
The physical strength.
Definitely the physical strength, if not strength, the endurance, which I think is different to strength.
Hmm.
Or well, or on another dimension of strength, if you want to put it that way. Um, and the mental counterpart of that, I suppose, is being resilient.
Hmm.
Endurance, resilience. Definitely those things. Um, I think, and I think resilience has an interesting, what is the word? For the lack of words, I'll say texture and form to it, because
Hmm.
resilience, in my head, you're resilient when you've hit rock bottom and you've picked yourself up and then you've moved on, and you've been able to do that a number of times. So,
Hmm.
what that dimension of strength tells me is you don't have to be steel.
Hmm.
You have strength when you're pliable,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a different kind of, it's a different way to
Strength.
be strong.
Yeah.
Um, and I think strength also, I'm gonna say this for someone like me who's this mix of an extrovert, introvert, needs my little space pocket, won't still trying to unlearn the obedience mindset, that sort of thing. I think I like the quietness in strength. So a quiet strength is also a strength.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's always, I think we're too bombarded by, and we live in this context where strength is loud, it's big, um, it's firm standing, and I think I guess I'm also kind of speaking of that strength of water that's very, will take the shape of its container but will also erode. And I think
Mm.
it's that power, right? It's the
Mm.
power of water is actually, here's my Aquarian reference again. Um, and I'm a water person, I'm a beach baby, so this is probably perfect. It is understanding that water will take the shape of its container, but it will erode stuff, and it will also give you tides, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it can be powerful in that sense as well.
Yeah.
It's not like, say, fire, which is hot, burning, will have
Hmm.
an impact a specific way. So I think I would sort of, for myself, I think that's the type of strength that I've had to kind of, or I have sort of inculcated or draw on,
Hmm.
um, in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So, have there been moments in your journey, whether it's academic, personal, or cultural, or professional, when you had to summon that kind of strength?
All the time. Um, all the time. Um, a lot of the every day at work, to be honest,
Hmm.
because we're a team that um, has to support a community of researchers, but also make it very clear they need to comply with some things.
Hmm. You
And
have
there
to be
is,
assertive and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And there is that. I've learned this recently, and I've probably used that way to sort of share this. You have to make empathy and assertiveness exist side by side.
Mm,
which is not an easy balance,
mm,
because when you're dealing with very difficult, tense
mm,
conversations where one of the two of you in that dialogue is triggered in some way, is frustrated,
mm,
angry, just sometimes pure panicked in some ways, it's easy to go off on either end. Um,
mm. Yeah.
it's really easy to sort of be extremely empathetic and then just give in, or
Mm-hmm.
be extremely sympathetic and give in. So I think that empathy, sympathy plus assertiveness can coexist, and that is something I think we need to bring to our work every day for the types of
Mm.
conversations we need to have. Um, which I'm not perfect at it still, but that's how I think I draw on that strength every day,
Mm.
as well.
Okay.
um yeah, yeah, I don't know. mm, I don't know if there's anything culturally in that sense, but I suppose culturally it has been before, like everything in my past experience, I guess, has led me to sort of draw on that a bit and go from
Okay.
there. But yeah. Mm.
Okay. So what or who gives you the source of your, like, what, or it could be a person or it could be something that you do or anything, like what would you define is your source of strength or where you tap in for that
Mm.
strength? Because sometimes it can be really overwhelming and you kind of like feel that the strength is like really at a very low this thing, but you
Mm.
need to tap into something to bring that forth.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think I think family and friends, to be quite honest, really family and friends.
Mm,
Um, um, my spirituality in some ways.
mm-hmm,
I'm not. I don't describe myself as overly religious or spiritual or anything like that, but I do have my beliefs. I do
mm-hmm,
believe in that big power beyond everything. And I think, and I have my own ways of, you know, praying and things like that, which I think, when you have a when you have something terrifying or scary or stressful in front of you, you are going to say the prayer, and I get my strength from that as well.
okay.
Um, and I think it's very strongly rooted, I'm going to say, in my family, like, and my
Mm,
friends. Um, like I've had days when um I've completely lost faith in myself and confidence in myself, on a professional front, or I've been extremely stressed, and all it's taken for me to kind of do is uh, call my childhood best friend or call my mom or call my sister and just have a good cry, and then you'll feel
mm,
better.
mm,
Um, and Aklesh, I think, has seen more than his fair share of my meltdowns with these things, particularly work,
mm-hmm,
um, because of some of the challenges we face as a team within my work context. I won't go into too much detail, but um, let's say we face the challenges of our times and our economy and a lot of
mm-hmm,
things like that. Um,
mm-hmm,
yeah, it's very, very strongly like from the close people
mm-hmm.
in my circle, my family and my friends, I'm going to say.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What advice would you give to women, especially those who are navigating their careers in academia or, or moving
Mm.
across countries and cultures? Like, do you have a specific advice for them?
Uh, um, Perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
in
Okay.
general.
Mm,
Sometimes even if that perseverance means you're holding on to things by the skin of your teeth.
Hmm.
And not necessarily you have like a good grip with your, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it is that.
Hmm.
Um, but also, um, specifically with academia, I'm going to say find your tribe within.
Hmm.
Um, I will I will still not forget that someone told me if you don't do anything else, come have a cup of chai.
Hmm.
And I think the other thing with academia, and particularly if you're doing like the long haul with a PhD, um, it's to find something to do every day that's a little bit physical or
Hmm.
tactile. Um, our PhDs are an intellectual exercise. They will keep you in your head a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and I used to just do 3D puzzles. I used to literally
Hmm.
do 3D puzzles and origami and things like that. And that gets you out of your head a little bit. And
Hmm.
that is your, if you want to use a gym metaphor, that's your recovery time for your brain.
You are you are the second person who said that you do puzzles or Sudoku or things like that, origami, because I did another interview with Dr. Aparajita. She's also a PhD in social cultural studies.
Hmm.
And she was the one who kind of like said, yeah, to get out of my head, I used to do, she said she played games and, puzzles
Yeah.
and things. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. In my life today, when I'm not doing a PhD, it took me a while to find this, and I stumbled on clog dancing. Clogging is
Hmm,
what does it for me. Um,
nice.
I go on a Thursday after I've had a long, terribly tough
Week.
week, maybe, or just an productive but exhausting week, maybe. It comes on just before the end of the week. It's on a Thursday evening. Um,
Nice.
and the way that dance is organized does not give you space to think of anything else but the dance and the step you need to do next.
Hmm.
So I think it's for anyone who's sort of doing intellect thinking heavy stuff, especially for people like me who overthinkers, fellow overthinkers, over analyzing stuff. I think that helps keep you centered. Um,
Hmm.
Anything. If lifting weights is your thing, do it. I love lifting weights. For me, it's almost like it has the same breathing flow as yoga because you need to do the breathing in, breathing out. So, any of those things help. For me, it's dancing because that's always been. I wanted to be a professional dancer in life at some point. Pretty much made plans to run away to go be one. But that's, I think, very important if you're doing. Um,
We need to have a dance party, man. Come on, sometime.
we do. We do.
I I love dancing, as you know. Like it's like
Yes.
the music, if the music is blasting, I cannot
Yeah.
sit still.
Yeah. Same
And
here.
Purvi is like, I always tell Purvi like, okay, let's go for an hour, and she's like, come on, ma, you're not going to come out in an hour. You're not going to stop dancing till the music is turned off. She knows it.
We definitely need to get together for a dance party. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, if you could go back and tell
yeah.
your younger self one
Mm,
thing
yeah.
before she began her academic journey, what would that be?
Um, gosh. Uh, I think it's just to kind of say you have nothing to be scared of, and you're not an imposter. Um,
We all have our imposter syndromes, huh?
we do. Me to this day, sometimes even when I'm managing a team, even now I have it, right? So
Yeah.
I guess another lesson in leadership that leaders don't have to have it all figured out.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess to kind of say believe in yourself and you know, it took a long while to flip the stubbornness to determination, but I guess I would allow myself to call it determination earlier in life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's switch the type a little and we're going to go into a little bit of rapid fire questions.
Ooh, okay.
What's your favorite book?
Ah, gosh, can I pick two?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't re I haven't read it as often yet, but I think if I've ever returned to a book, it's been that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think off late there's a trilogy by this amazing fantasy fiction writer called N.K. Jemisin, New
Mm,
Yorker, I think.
okay.
It's called the Broken Earth trilogy.
Mm,
Just
okay.
fantastic work. Like it just left a lot. Gosh, now you make me think of a third one.
Sure, go for it.
um, I think
I
a
know,
book.
I know, I know though, like people who love to read books like you and me, it's like it's really difficult to pick one favorite. So
Yeah.
that's fine, go for it.
Thank you for extending the rapid fire. I think in the recent past, a book that has been powerfully transformative for my own sort of journey as a woman has been The Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay.
Oh,
Um,
yes, I do love that book. Yeah.
yeah, it just
Okay.
it just taught me to be very kind to myself and very forgiving of myself.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
absolutely love that book. Yeah.
Mm. What's your favorite song?
Oh, you can't be asking like someone. You can't be.
What's the first thing that comes
Uh,
to your mind? Just say that.
okay, I will give you something that's somewhat recent. It's not extremely new or anything, but one song that I've really loved is this song that has the lyrics by Varun Grover from the movie
Okay.
Kala. It's called
Okay.
Rubaiya.
Okay.
Um, just uh, just absolutely love the lyrics of that song and love everything about it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Favorite quotation.
Um, gosh, I don't think I have a favorite quotation.
Okay.
Um, no, not really. Mm-mm.
Okay. That's fine. Favorite movie?
This is the toughest rapid fire ever. And the questions are deceptively simple. Uh, um, look, I think books impact on me and imprint on me more than movies, but if I really had to
Hmm.
pick like a movie that kind of was very, um, I'm gonna say the Matrix trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your greatest fear?
Ooh. Hmm. Um, that I'm gonna lose all the love in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the most courageous thing you've ever done till date?
Ooh. I'm gonna say there's been a few of those,
Okay.
including kicking Matt's ass, but I think I'm I don't know if it's courageous as much as it is a leap of faith, but it's
Okay.
pretty much kind of um and ignore for a second that you're related to this person, but it's essentially following Akhilesh across the world after just, I guess, you know,
Meeting for 3 days.
yeah,
No, that is a courageous thing for sure.
yep,
And also like you you left your PhD in the sense, left in the sense you left where you
yeah,
were studying to
yeah,
go to another country,
yeah,
which is it's essentially leaving your career, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
it,
yeah, no, that is the
yeah,
most courageous thing for sure.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
courageous also in the sense, or leap of faith rather, in the sense that the only thing I could determine at the end of, this whole, I had quite a long journey into the whole arranged marriage like thing. Like it was quite a difficult, challenging thing. But by the time it came to meeting Aklesh, I think the only thing I knew was I trust him enough to want to take the leap of faith. After that, we'll
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. And I think it's that being in that sense of free fall, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's your philosophy of life, or the one thing that you keep going back to that makes you keep doing whatever that you're doing, right?
Mm. Um, I guess I come with life in the sense of a lot of sense related, sensory related, experience related things. I'm like, try everything at least once.
Mm.
Um, Even though I'm more successful or less successful at it, it's a varying range of being successful at
Mm-hmm.
keeping to it. Um, because God knows I have my comfort zones and I hate getting out of them. Um, I think it's
As do
that, and
everybody, as do everybody. So,
and I think it's also it's funny. I think I said this to a friend when I was probably in 1920, and he's a couple of years older than I am, and I think he was kind of. Uh, it sounds silly now when we're in our 40s, but he's obviously turning 23 or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I'm turning 23. I'm going on." I'm like, "Don't think of it that way. Think of it as you ever get to be an age only once in your life. You never get to be 43 ever again in your life. Only that one year you get to be it."
yeah.
So I guess it gives you a sense of urgency to live your life, not in a bad way, but in a
Mm-hmm.
I guess it the times that I can remember this, it's basically I try and not let my life go by idle,
Mm.
or I just try and I guess I try and juice it as much as I can. Yeah.
I can totally appreciate and relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the good, the
totally.
bad, the ugly, it's the snotty tears, it's everything, but you get to be that
That's
age only
everything.
once. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I believe in living life to my fullest.
Yeah.
Whether other people judge it, like it, not like it, I don't really care because I'm living my life. So I can totally get on board
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, this was
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking the time to, patiently answer my questions, and it was a lot of fun getting to know you better. And I hope my
Same
the
here.
audience will also get to know you better and enjoy the conversation as much as I have.
I
Uh,
hope so too. Yes, I hope so too. And I hope it's been awesome. I think it's extra special that it's with family
yeah,
and you're right. Like I think we haven't had a chance to really sit down and have like a deep conversation, and this has been really good. And gosh, I hope I didn't bore people going off on tangents. I'm sorry if I did.
no, sometimes
Um,
interesting stories come from those tangents, so it's all good. It's all. So, what I love most about these conversations like this one with Maddie is how they remind us that strength doesn't always look like resistance. Sometimes it's reflection, curiosity, and the quiet courage to keep learning, unlearning, and evolving. Maddie's story, from her roots in India to her life and work in New Zealand, is a testament to how intellect and empathy can coexist and how purpose can find new forms across cultures, disciplines, and continents. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow Portraits of Strength wherever you listen to podcasts and share this episode with someone who could use a reminder that strength can be both fierce and thoughtful. Until next time, this is Harry signing off, reminding you to keep finding your own portraits of strength in the world and within yourself.